Browns getting 5.5 points at the Titans. This is a good game. What are you thinking here?
I mean, I think realistically it's going to be a low scoring game. You got the two best rushing offense in football. Browns averaging a little over 160 rush yards a game, and the Titans carried by Derrick Henry just under 160. So I think it's going to be a ground game. It's going to be low scoring. With that being said, who do you trust more? Which run game? I mean, you have to go with Derrick Henry. I think that they will cover. I think so. I'll go Titans minus 5.5. I think they win by a touchdown. And I do think towards the end of the game, maybe a Derrick Henry rushing touchdown will, kind of put it over. I think they'll go into the fourth quarter up 3 or so, and then kind of put it away towards the end.
All right. I'll admit, as a Colts fan, a little bit of a Titans hater, not because they're in division rivals. I have a tough time buying into this team. Like, I really don't think they're as good as maybe their record says they are. Like,
I think both teams are tough to buy into, right?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's fair. The Browns at 8-3,
you don't feel good about that.
No. With that said, with two teams that you mentioned, both two teams that love to run the ball, that similar have some question marks. I'm going to go with I'll take the points here. So I'll take Cleveland on the road, getting 5.5. Like you said, I think it's going to be a ground and pound game. Clock's going to run quick. And if it's going to be a close game where two strengths go at each other, I will take the points. I'll take the Browns 5.5 because we disagree on almost everything that makes sense. That you take Tennessee with our first pick. Our second and final NFL game. Rams giving 2.5 points on the road at Arizona. A little tricky NFC West battle. Where are you thinking here, Z-Man?
So I think the Cardinals are the epitome of showing a lot of potential and a lot of flash, but never getting the result. Now, with that being said, I will go Cardinals plus 2.5. I think that the Rams defense and the Cardinals offense.
Ooh, sorry.
The Rams defense and the. Should I start over?
No, you're good.
Okay.
We'll keep it rolling. We do things live here.
This is live, people. I think before
Hickey's far from perfect.
Well, I think people will notice at the beginning my mic kind of dropped, so we each had a little snafu. So Cardinals offense and Rams defense, I think will be a wash. I think will kind of cancel each other out, so it'll come down to the Rams offense against the Cards defense. I just think that it's going to be enough where I'm going to take the 2.5 points. I want to believe in Jared Goff, right? Because we saw in their Super Bowl run that he has the potential. I don't know whether or not it was because of the play calling was tailored towards him or what, but we haven't seen that same Jared Goff. But I'm going to at the end. I'm going to trust Cliff Kingsbury over McVay right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll go Cardinals plus 2.5. The only thing that scares me is the Rams' pass defense is third in the NFL, and that could potentially halt Kyler Murray. But give me the Cards plus.
See, it's interesting. You're kind of grappling with like the Jared Goff side of like to trust or not. I think I'm grappling with the Kyler Murray side of whether to trust or not. Not because I like Kyler Murray a lot, but to your point, this Rams defense is really, really good. Murray has a shoulder injury. They don't really say anything. We don't really know how serious it is. It's limiting him. I mean, we saw the last two games. The offense has kind of struggled. So I'll be honest, I'll ride with the best unit. I'll take the Rams defense. 2.5 is not a lot. So, I don't feel great about either one of these teams, to be honest. I will take the Rams. I think they're the better team right now. The more experienced team, I think, will come through in the clutch. I'll take the Rams minus 2.5. You take the Cardinals plus 2.5. We disagree. This is very on brand so far. We really agree on anything. So far, 2 NFL games, we disagree. All right, let's go to the wheelhouse here. 3 college football games, a very fun and interesting college football slate. We'll start with, I think this is a fair statement. The most interesting game of the weekend, is that fair? One that just came about less than 48 hours ago, less than really 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
Right? Number 13, BYU. 10-point favorites on the road, and number 18, Coastal Carolina. If you remember, Coastal Carolina was supposed to host Liberty. That was out. BYU in on 2 days' notice. Game day will be there. It'll be a fun day. But what are you thinking here?
When it comes to games like this, I immediately go to the best player on the field, right? And that's Zach Wilson. In college, it's a little different than the NFL, where one player can completely make the difference. So give me the fourth highest scoring team in the country, 47.5 points per game in the Cougs. Give me Zach Wilson. I'll lay the points. Give me BYU -10.
I'm with you. Laying the points. Give me the Cougs. Because like you said, too, not only is he the best player on the field, the Chanticleers have what? 30 hours, 40 hours to prepare for him. You haven't had a whole week to basically break down Zach Wilson film and say, all right, how can we slow him down? So now you're allowing the best player on the field to basically play almost against a defense that has really not much, game plan wise, not much out there to try to slow him down. Don't really know the weaknesses like you would in a normal week of game planning. So I'm with you. Best player wins out. Best team wins out. To me, I think BYU is too good. Number 13, Cougs. 10 points on the road. We're both taking the Cougars. Number 12, Indiana. No Michael Penix Jr., their great quarterback, unfortunately out for the year. They're getting 14 points on the road at number 16, Wisconsin, a team that's played 3 games all year, up and down for the Badgers for sure. Z-Man, which way? I don't like how I call you Z-Man, by the way. Zim, which way are you thinking?
You're the only one to call me that too, by the way. I will go.
And I said it like 3 or 4 times. I catch myself every time. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to a little college football, because I don't think anybody really cares about nicknames right now. They want to try and make some money, hopefully. But I wouldn't advise going with our picks. Anyway, yes, no Michael Penix Jr., but Jack Tuttle is a more than capable backup quarterback, and he was actually recruited by Wisconsin coming out of high school. I think I love the Hoosiers +14 here.
Ooh.
Wisconsin. I'm not saying they'll win, right? I'm not saying Indiana will win. I think they'll cover the 14. I think they'll. I think Wisconsin wins outright. I'll be honest. I think Wisconsin wins outright, 10-7 points or so. But 14 is a lot of points. Going to Camp Randall is different this year. There are no fans. You're not getting jump around. So I think the 14 is a lot going on the road. So give me the Hoosiers +14 here.
So we disagree again. I'm going to take the Badgers giving 14, and here's why. The Northwestern game I'm going to put on the side for a second here. Maybe I shouldn't, but that's just for whatever reason. Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald seems to have Paul Chryst number on offense, not just this year, but in years past. So I'm not going to take a lot out of that offensive performance where they scored 7 points against Northwestern, just because even when Northwestern is really bad and Wisconsin is really good, for whatever reason, that always is a close game with not a lot of points scored. The other 2 games they played, Michigan and Illinois, they have blown the doors off of both of those teams. I think the offense with Graham Mertz gets back on that kind of track they have against their game against Northwestern. I will take Wisconsin. I almost forgot there. -14, because I also do think, and this is maybe just me, I don't know how you feel. Indiana, with the way Tom Allen has built this team, right? It's been a fairy tale, right? It's been a great story. I'm not taking anything away. I wonder if air gets let out of the balloon when you kind of see your quarterback go down. He's out for the year. Like I said, Jack Tuttle's a fine quarterback, but it's just, when you have an emotional leader like Penix Jr., like he's been all year, kind of been that catalyst, I wonder like how much of a letdown spot it is, just because now you're going into a game against a good opponent where, like you said, you're missing your number 1 guy.
Yeah. That's still not enough to sway me. I'm going Indiana. I just think Jack Tuttle is yes, Michael Penix Jr. is probably if he stayed healthy, was in the conversation for offensive player of the year in the conference. I think Jack Tuttle is good enough to keep it within 14. I think that's what it comes down to for me.
All right, that's fair. We disagree on the 3 of the 4. What else is new? Last game on the slate, number 5, Texas A&M, giving 6.5 points on the road to Auburn.
This is one of those games where even when Auburn is bad, right? I mean, because I wouldn't say bad. When Auburn hasn't been classic Auburn under Gus Malzahn, we've kind of written them off because they've always looked a mess, right? They really have never looked in sync. Offense with Bo Nix just doesn't look good at all. Defense can't stop anybody. And then they always seem to come up big, or at least maybe play Bama close, which they didn't this year. But it's classic Auburn where they win or at least keep a close one when it's unexpected. I can't buy into that this year. Not saying that I believe in A&M or I think A&M is the 5th best team in the country. I just think that Auburn is too much of a mess right now, and they're too much of a roller coaster, and I think the Aggies are going to catch them on a week where they're not on their game. Plus, I think a big thing with Texas A&M this year is Kellen Mond not turning the ball over. 2 interceptions all season. Hasn't thrown an interception in the past 3 weeks. If he can just Jimbo doesn't need him to go out and win games. If he can just manage the game and they can run the ball and work an effective offense. That's the thing with Jimbo Fisher's offense. We saw at Florida State, Jameis Winston wasn't necessarily winning games. He was controlling games, managing it, coming up with big throws when they needed to, but he didn't necessarily go out and sling the ball around. I think Kellen Mond is in a similar situation where you don't turn the ball over, you continue to run the offense. Jimbo knows how to script games, and I think that they've got something rolling. Now, I will go Texas A&M -6.5 at Auburn, but I also want to circle back and say I don't believe A&M is the 5th best team in the country.
Okay, I love it. I'm with you, and I'll be honest here. This pick is solely me rooting for A&M to lose because, to your point, like I
know where you're going with this.
A&M is right. Like I'm sorry, they're just not the 5th best team in the country. They're not. They got blown out. What is it? 20 points. They lost to Alabama. I understand they beat Florida. I understand. But right now, you can't tell me the way Florida has played since that game, the way A&M has played since that game, that they are the same teams when they played, what was that, week 2 or week 3?
Yep.
So I am taking Auburn. I'm taking the 6.5 points at home. Weird things happen in Jordan-Hare, right? Mm-hmm. You got to agree with that. Weird, for whatever reason, Auburn is always one of those teams, like to your point, weird things happen any year. This year, especially, they've kind of been a mess. But you know what? I'll just take the weirdness of Gus Malzahn. I'll take the weirdness of Jordan-Hare, kind of maybe pulling a miracle here. But also, like, his offense doesn't scare me with Kellen Mond. I understand they had a 3-week layoff last week against LSU, but LSU's defense, I mean, they're 1 injury away from me and you being on the field. And honestly, with the way Bo Pelini is coached, maybe me and you coaching defense could get a better effort than LSU's put out this year. And they held A&M to 20 points. And that game, if they had a competent quarterback play from either one of those guys, maybe they could have, who knows, maybe even pulled out a win. Like they were, 27, let's be honest here, against an LSU team this year is just a bad output. So maybe it's a 3-week layoff, but
yeah,
this is just me, honestly. This is me wishing and willing Auburn to beat A&M, get them out of the conversation. Let's just stop with this whole song and dance. I'll take the Tigers +6.5 at home. Weirdness. I'll banking on the weirdness here of Jordan-Hare to get a big upset.
Okay.
Right. This is where the moves are made. This is where really, if you want to climb the leaderboard, this is where to make your move. Upset special. 1 point if your team covers, 2 if they outright win. What is your upset special for this week?
I'm going country roads. Take me home. Give me West Virginia +6.5 at Iowa State. Yeah, like I said, the underdog special is not necessarily you're going for a win here. You're just going for a cover at least. Get me the +1. I would be happy with the +2 if the Mountaineers came out on top. I think 6.5 is a lot of points. Brock Purdy has been playing well this year. But again, I think we're coming towards the end of the season where you know it as well as I do. Towards the end of the season, weird things happen that always shake up things. Give me West Virginia +6.5. And I think with a potential Iowa State loss this week would cause chaos in the Big 12.
It would. And really, outside of Oklahoma, what Big 12 team has ever been consistent? Really, ever. So that would definitely be on brand for that conference. I'm going to stick with college football. I'm going to go out west here. Oregon State is getting 11 points on the road at Utah. Utah, I understand that, their season, again, has been – the whole Pac-12 season has been weird with COVID. Mm-hmm. They lost a game against USC where I thought, honestly, Utah was going to put up a good fight, especially in Salt Lake City, and win that game. They go against Washington. They were dominating the first half against Washington last week, let them back in the game, end up losing that game. Oregon State, now maybe this is just me putting too much stock into one game, and this is maybe Vegas trying to rope a sucker like myself in to take Oregon State with the 11 points. But they played Oregon tough. They looked competent. Jamar Jefferson is a great running back. Mm-hmm. So they at least have a competent offense, can move the ball. I think they can go into Salt Lake City. Forget cover. I think they can win. I'm going the Beavs here +11. Hopefully at least get me 1 point, maybe possibly 2 with an outright upset. We will see.
Okay.
But out of the 5 games, you both disagree on 4. You have the Titans -5.5. I have the Browns +5.5. You have the Cardinals +2.5. I have the Rams -2.5. And both on BYU are only agreement of the day. BYU -10. You're taking Indiana +14. I'll take Wisconsin -14. And you are on A&M -6.5. I will take Auburn. Upset special 6.5. West Virginia at Iowa State. I will take Oregon State +11 at Utah.